Welcome to the Wise Take DFS podcast. I am your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I am joined once again by one of Wise Take's finest DFS analysts, Mr. KamG333. You can find him on Twitter at KamG333. Cam, you never know what I'm going to do. You never know how I'm going to introduce you. It's always a mystery.
Keeping me on my toes.
Keeping you on your toes. That's it. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. Just watching the College World Series here. It's a pretty good game. Because Fires and James Shields decided to go back to like their 2010 form, so that was cool. So I turned on some college baseball quick, and it's been a good ninth inning. Oregon State came back from down a run. Now they're up 5-3. So looks like they're gonna tie the series. Whenever DFS is going bad for me, I'll just turn to college baseball.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I try to find other things to occupy my time with too. Otherwise, I end up writing very mean tweets that I don't even mean to write the next day. I end up not meaning them, and like I'm known for that now. If listeners, whoever's listening, if you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. That's what happens when I don't have something else to distract me when I'm having a bad night. Like tonight, I had a bad night. I got a lot wrong. I mean, that's the thing, man. What we do, like when we're wrong, we're gonna admit we're wrong. We don't sit there and try to sugarcoat it and I got this right. I don't give a damn. Like I was wrong today. Like it's it. If you wanna, if you wanna win, you have to recognize when you made mistakes. That's how you learn. And so, if you notice, I didn't tweet anything that was mean other than I got something wrong. And that was just a quick tweet. So, I had things I had to do. Obviously, with the new house, I had a couple of things I had to work on and try to learn something else. And it distracted me, and it's nice. So when you have those distractions, it's nice. And I didn't even have time to be upset because by the time I was done with that, it's time to do the podcast and talk about tomorrow. So as far as I'm concerned, we're on to tomorrow. It's over. Like, this day was done. It was done for me. But I'm
like it didn't even happen.
It's like it didn't even happen. It's like it didn't even happen. Like Fires trolled us, Shields trolled us. When did they do it?
We were talking before the show, and you and I both took a shot on Heaney and GPPs, and we were like, yeah, that's never good when Sandy Leon and
Eduardo Nunez.
The other, Eduardo Nunez get to him first, and then you just have JD lurking like batters after. You're like, oh boy, this is not going to end well.
Yes, no, not going to end well. Paulie had a couple things right. He came on to Eflin late, and the reason I like that so much is because it was just like it was all like information that came out kind of later. Like he found out who the ump was, it was a good ump. Then we saw the Yankees lineup; it was terrible. Then you start thinking like, well, they're also losing a DH, and Judge was out, and a catcher was in that nobody's ever heard of, and it was like. So he got a good amount right, and like you and I both, Cam, like it's not like we didn't literally get. It's not like we got everything wrong. It's just the stuff that we ended up choosing was wrong. But like I think we both had something on the Dodgers. I know I had something on the Mariners. Like there were things I got right. It just wasn't my main options. Like it just wasn't. And like obviously you were really big on Wheeler. That obviously worked out well. So all in all, it's just when it came down to was the stuff that we liked the most. Probably shouldn't have been liking the most. It probably should have been the other way around, But
my like primary and secondary stuff was like all bad. Right. But my third picks, like if I would have put those all in one lineup, I would have had a really good night. Yeah. But that's just how it goes.
That's just how it goes. And like we said, man, we learn from our mistakes. That's what you got to do. You got to analyze what you did wrong, analyze what the winners got right, and recognize where you went wrong. And obviously. That's the great thing about baseball DFS is we get another crack at it tomorrow. And tomorrow, we've got 2 slates, Cam. We've got 2 slates, so we don't even have to wait a full 24 hours before we get another crack. So I'm excited about that. Now, on the FanDuel slate, they have a 6-game early, so that's very uncharacteristic of FanDuel. Normally, they're the ones breaking it up to 12 and 1 o'clocks. And they actually decided to throw in the 12 o'clock games into a 6-game slate.
Wild.
It's just like...
It's usually like 6 2-game slates.
Yeah.
Like a turbo, like an express turbo, like an express turbo, and then they have like a 2-game main slate. And then Yeah.
Exactly. So they did do it a little bit differently. So we will cover the 12 o'clock Eastern game, which is obviously 11 o'clock for you, Cam, in the Central Time Zone. But we'll go ahead and cover it from a FanDuel perspective because it's not actually on the DraftKings slate. After that, we'll do the regular. Obviously, at yslate.com, we do cover both sites, but we do have a lot of DraftKings content. It's what Cam and I primarily play, so that's the reason that we decided to talk about it. We don't want to, misguide anybody. So we talk about what we actually play. So without further ado, Cam, we got 2 slates to get through, and because the main slate's only 4 games. So let's get this thing started. First up, we've got Zach Greinke. This is FanDuel only, of course, of the Arizona Diamondbacks, visiting Trevor Richards of the Miami Marlins. Total here is 7. Miami plus 140 at home. Cam, for the FanDuel players, what do you got?
Yeah, so on FanDuel, like when I used to play over there, my approach was kind of just paying up at pitcher and not really worrying about like a whole lot of value. Pitchers, that's kind of just how it seems to work pretty much. We were talking about that before the show. The pricing is kind of messed up where it kind of allows you to just pay for whoever you want. So I wouldn't really need to look for like a value pitcher or anything. I think Greinke's fine. I don't think he has like a whole lot of strikeout upside in this matchup, but I think he's definitely a good enough pitcher to kind of navigate his way around this Marlins lineup, and especially if Real Muto's out tomorrow as well, that definitely gives him a boost. I know he got scratched late today, and I'm not really sure like why exactly he got scratched, but I mean, just kind of looking at the pitchers on this slate, I think Greinke's probably a top 2, if not the number 1 option, probably on the slate tomorrow, just the early one. So, yeah, I would definitely have a lot of interest in him in this matchup. Great ballpark against a pretty weak Marlins squad. On the other hand, like I think you can attack Richards as well. He kind of has like peak and valley games. He can have really good games, but just like watching him pitch, I don't really believe like he's that great. He doesn't stand out with anything like that he throws or anything to me. So I definitely think a lot of these like Diamondbacks bats are in play. Don't love the ballpark at all. Miami's stadium's huge, but I think like Peralta, Lamb, Goldschmidt, Ketel Marte, and Descalso, kind of the same suspects for Arizona, are in play just because I don't really believe in Richard's success that he has here and there.
Yeah, I like. I think in FanDuel, like cash games should probably start with Greinke. In tournaments, I think you can make a case to navigate around him. Obviously, on FanDuel, sometimes it's hard to get off the chalk pay up pitcher on FanDuel because, like you said, the pricing is so soft that like you don't have to. It's like if on DraftKings, it's like I may choose to not play like a Carlos Carrasco because he's expensive and it's going to make me take bats I don't want to play. On FanDuel, usually you only have to sacrifice 1 or 2 positions and you do have utility there, and then it's no problem. Like you'll always find some dude that's just underpriced because half their guys are underpriced. But I do expect Greinke to be the main guy that people go to. I expect him to be very popular here against the Marlins. I'm not a fan in tournaments of picking on the Marlins, but I do think if Realmuto is out again, we could take a look because they have been a little worse lately. They've been striking out a little bit more. Robbie Ray looked pretty good. And they've been striking out against lefties, which is surprising because they're so right-handed heavy. So I think Greinke's okay. Definitely like where I would start my cash games on FanDuel. On tournaments, though, I still think I would try to go with someone else just because of the way the Marlins are. But honestly, I haven't really looked at the rest of the pitching options. So, again, I think...
There's a couple other guys, I think.
A couple other guys? Okay, I'll take your word for it. But at 9-8, it's not really going to be hard to fit the other guys you don't want anyway. I think he's okay. But I'm hoping that I find something a little bit better, maybe a little lower owned on FanDuel. I will say that, don't forget, guys, me and Cam have been checking our FanDuel accounts because FanDuel is supposedly going to drop some money in people's accounts this week. Random people up to $5,000. Highly doubt they actually
what?
do that.
I didn't hear that.
You didn't know about this, Cam?
No.
Where have you? Oh yeah, you've been working. That's right. We've been talking about this all week, man. Yeah, like FanDuel is supposedly they're gonna drop anywhere from $25 to like $5,000 into random people's accounts, and you got to check. It's going to the end of the week. If they put the money in your account, I think you have to the end of the so you have to use it that slate. Like you have to use all of it or something like that. I don't know the exact rules, but
You
yeah.
have to spend if you got 5 grand, you have to spend it on that
I
slate.
think so, either that or like a portion. But I know that if you don't use it, like if you just didn't check and it could be in there, they take it out the next day. So like it's not like something that's like if it's in
Imagine
there, it's
getting
gonna be in
like
there all
five
week.
grand on like a 4 game slate.
Oh
That
yeah,
suck.
oh
I mean, it
yeah,
wouldn't suck.
oh yeah,
It's a
man.
free.
There you go. You could have some fun for sure. But yeah, in camp. So make sure you're checking FanDuel. They probably already gave it to you. You don't even you're just screwed now.
I probably got it like yesterday and I didn't even like look at it.
You had it today. You're like, check right now. You'll see like a receipt in your history. Like you idiot. That's what it's
Yeah.
gonna say.
I'll check my email like, and it'll be like you received 5 grand, and then I will go on there and I'll be gone. Oh, FanDuel, gotta love it.
Yes. But yeah, Greinke's okay. I'm with you on the D-backs bats. I think they're definitely in play. I prefer the D-backs against righties. Like they are pretty tough against lefties. Don't get me wrong. Like guys like Ahmed is a little bit better. Marte's been pretty good. But I just prefer to play Lamb, Peralta, Descalso. Like those are the D-backs I like to play. Vila when
Yeah,
he plays, which he probably won't play because I'm pretty sure Mathis always catches Greinke. But yeah, those are the guys I like to play. And then Goldschmidt, I'll play lefty or righty. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't bother me. Goldschmidt's price on FanDuel is 4.4. I don't know. I'm used to seeing him at like 5.4 on DraftKings. So that just seemed, for a
yeah,
second, I was like, oh. And I was like, nope, that's FanDuel. I'm like, but yeah, the D-backs bat's okay. It is a big ballpark. And I think Greinke is your cash option. In tournaments, I think maybe we can look for somebody else. But he's fine. Next up, we got Sean Manaea of the Oakland Athletics visiting Michael Fulmer of the Detroit Tigers. Total here is 8.5. Detroit plus 102 at home. 78 degrees, 58% humidity in Detroit. What do you think, Cam?
yeah. I think Manaya is like a fine pitcher, but it's just when his price gets up to like 10.8. That's too much for me. I'm not going to pay 10.8 for him. I know he's going up against Detroit and everything, but he just doesn't really have like a whole lot of strikeout stuff. There's a couple other guys that I was kind of looking at before that I think I have more interest in that I think has a little more strikeout potential than Manaya does, and 10.8 is a tough price to ask for him, just with like his ability. I wouldn't be shocked if he like went out and threw maybe like a 20 to 23 point game, but it's just too much for me. I think you could definitely take a look at Nick Castellanos against him. He's a guy who just continues to hit the ball really hard, especially against lefties this year. I think he has a ISO around 300. So yeah, I think I would just play Castellanos, not have a lot of interest in Manaya either. On the other side, Fulmer, I just never. I don't know, man. Like Fulmer's such a tease. I feel like he'll like pitch really well for like 4.5 innings, and then like the fifth and the sixth come around, and he just gives up like 4 home runs. So like I don't know. I'm kind of dumb rostering him. I think 7.9's okay, but this like Oakland team full of lefties, he struggles versus lefties a little bit more. I think I favor like the bats side of it for Oakland more than I favor Fulmer. I'd have to look at some of the other pitching options, but right now I think I would take like a Dustin Fowler, Joyce, Lowry, Davis, and Olson over rostering Fulmer.
Yeah, it's a tough call for me, man. Like I know exactly what you mean, and like you, I love to take the A's when they're in a better ballpark. Like whenever they come east, it's like you want to hop on them. They're getting like really good ballparks. People assume that their offense is terrible because they play in Oakland, where it's very difficult
Yeah.
to put up runs. But they're really not bad. They got some good players. This Dustin Fowler guy is good. Like Matt Joyce, Larry's having another quietly great year. Like Patio Joe deemed him cash game porn last year because they would never raise his price and he would just crush it every day. And he's pretty good. They got Crush Davis. They've got Matt Olson, who's a young guy with some mega power. Piscotty's been heating up. Like they have decent players on offense. So when they get a ballpark boost, I typically do like to play them. But Michael Fulmer has dominated them over his career. I know Fulmer's not the same guy that he was a couple of years ago when it looked like he was some great strikeout pitcher, and it turns out he's just not. But he does have a tendency to rack up strikeouts when the opponents let him, when they allow him to. So I could see a scenario where he's able to get a few Ks on DraftKings at 7-9. I do think he is an option. On FanDuel, he's 7-7, so not really much of a benefit there. But on DraftKings at 7-9, against the A's, I would lean that way. As far as Manaea, I really don't like taking lefties against the Tigers, man. Especially not a guy like Sean Manaea. Like you said, he's 10-8 on DraftKings. That just seems a little high, considering the performances that we've kind of seen. He's been a little inconsistent. I know maybe lately he's been pitching a little bit better, but all in all, he's been kind of inconsistent this season. He started off great, had that no-hitter, and then just kind of fell apart. I think he's had like 2 good starts in a row. So you give me, 2 good starts in a row. Did he have a good game against the... he had a good game against the White Sox, too. So I guess you could technically say he had 3 good starts in a row. But I don't know. I'm just not buying it, man. Like, the Tigers are so right-handed. I just don't like messing with... And against lefties, they really don't strike out a lot. So against righties, you can make a case. But against lefties...
I think their team as a whole is pretty good, just like against lefties. Yeah. Like, versus righties, average. But I think they're, like, above average in terms of some statistics against lefties. So
Right.
Yeah, it's not like an easy matchup as it might appear.
Right. No, exactly. And the Tigers have always been that way. They've always been super right-handed and just destroy lefties. And like now they have the basis of that. It's just they have shitty players, but they have the basis of that still. You know what I'm saying? Like the foundation is still the same. We want guys that can hit lefties and aren't going to strike out against lefties. And like you got guys like Dixon Machado, Jose Iglesias. These guys don't strike out against lefties. So it's just like you might think they suck, and they do, but they don't really strike out. So I'm not really into Manaea. I would lean towards Fulmer over Manaea as far as pitchers in this game. At the same time, I don't mind taking some of these athletic bats if you're not playing Fulmer, especially because Detroit's bullpen is pretty weak. So if they can chase Fulmer out of there, they should see a pretty bad bullpen coming in. But I kind of like Fulmer so far.
Fulmer for me is like... He's always in play on every slate because he's like sits in like that 7-2 to 7-9 range, and it's just a matter of like who's around him. If I'm gonna click on him or like the guy that's like right around his price.
You're right. He's never your first choice. It's like Fulmer. Okay, it's nice. It's nice to know I have that there just in case I need it.
He falls into your lap when like no one else is available. Yeah. And you're like, I'll just play him.
You
okay.
know what? He doesn't look all that bad anymore. Hello.
Yeah, and just like pray that like he makes it through like 5 or 6 innings, pretty much.
And hope that they pull him before the 8th, because it seems like he's always left in 1 inning too long. It seems like it's always one inning too long, and he gets bombed in that inning and just undoes everything.
That's literally the worst ever when that happens.
The Fulmer tilt is real, bro. The Fulmer tilt is real. But we'll see. So I kind of like him. Next up, we got Jake Odorizzi of the Minnesota Twins visiting Lucas Giolito, everybody's favorite Giolito, of the Chicago White Sox. Total here sits at 9.5. The White Sox plus 120 at home. 80 degrees, 61% humidity, starting to warm up a little bit out there in Chi-Town. Cam, props or shout out to you for the Chi-Town call. What do you think?
I think this is like probably the best 2 offenses to use tomorrow. Just looking at it real quick, outside of maybe the Mariners, but in my opinion, I think these are probably the 2 worst pitchers on the slate in terms of like giving up fantasy production to opposing hitters. Giolito for me would be like one of the top guys I would want to attack probably on like a 15-game slate, nonetheless like a 5-game slate. So I know the Twins stunk it up today against Shields, but I think you can definitely go right back to him with the same suspects as always. Like Rosario is probably like a top play tomorrow. Escobar as well. Logan Morrison, Kepler. I like all those guys. So I would target the lefties for sure, but I wouldn't hate like a Dozier either. On the other side, Odorizzi's a guy that tends to just give up a lot of home runs. So I think you could target a lot of these like White Sox power hitters too. So I would take a look at like Moncada, Abreu. Avisail Garcia's back. I think he's homered in his last 2 games back, I believe. And then Matt Davidson, you can always take if you're feeling lucky because he has double dong upside. Yeah, so I think I like both sides of this game. I don't have any interest in the pitchers at all. Full stack for Minnesota, and then maybe like a 3-man for the White Sox, or just try and pick off like a home run or two from the White Sox.
Yeah, man, I'm on board with all of that. I do think some people will try to play Odorizzi just because he's 6'3" on DraftKings. You need 2 pitchers, and he's pitched okay against them. Like, I think he had like a 15 and a 17. So both of those scores at 6'3" you'd have been okay with. But I think the White Sox, like you said, they're healthy now. They're starting to heat up a little bit. Odorizzi's numbers are just terrible, and the regression has really gotten the better of him. We knew it was coming, and it's kind of bit him really hard. Now, I will say that he's been particularly bad to lefties. So there's not too many threatening lefties outside of like Moncada and Sanchez. But either way, he has extreme fly ball numbers. This is finally a game. I feel like in Chicago, it just now started to get kind of warm. And it is a small ballpark, so I do expect there to be a decent hitting atmosphere. I'm with you. I like both offenses. Giolito really can't strike anybody out. A lot of lefties here that's going to see him. He was the worst pitcher in baseball for a little while there, and I think he still is personally. But yeah, I'm with you. I like both bats here. The Twins, all of them. The White Sox, I really like Yoan Moncada, but of course I like a lot of these other guys too. Jose Abreu hit a home run today. Avisail Garcia hit a home run today. I always like playing Tim Anderson. And yeah, I think both stacks are firmly in play. Next up, Mike Leake of the Seattle Mariners visiting Jimmy Yacobinis of the Baltimore Orioles. Total here is 9.5. Baltimore plus 130 at home. 89 degrees, 50% humidity out in Baltimore. It is going to be hot, humid, small park. When the dew points are up here, that ball really flies. What do you got?
Yeah, this just looks like a really good spot for the Mariners. This Yacobinis guy, he's had small stints in the majors, but when he's been up, he's just been really bad. So I think you can literally play like every single bat for the Mariners. But from what it looks like since he's been in the majors, he's been somewhat of like a reverse splits guy. So the righties have done a little bit more damage to him, but like in terms of just raw numbers, kind of looking at it, I think they're pretty much equivalent when it comes to like picking up or like picking hitters against him. I think both sides are pretty even, probably neutral split. So yeah, I think you could take like the power guys, especially for the Mariners, but I wouldn't hate like Segura or D. Gordon in a full stack. But Healy, Seager, Cruz if he's back in the lineup, and Haniger as well, all look like they could be really solid plays tomorrow up against this guy. And then Mike Leake going up against the Orioles, like he's 6'4", but the Orioles just haven't been nearly as bad the past couple weeks here. So I'm not going to use Leake, especially in this ballpark with like the weather and everything. It looks like to be like a pretty good spot. I think you could even like use a couple bats against Leake here. Like Machado is always in play. Trumbo's been heating up. And then like if you wanted to use some of these value guys on the Orioles, if you needed to like open up space, I wouldn't even be opposed to that necessarily. Did Chris Davis hit a home run today? I mean, he's 2.6 if you absolutely need the salary, but I wouldn't go anywhere near these pitchers. I think it's all bats in this one for me.
Yep, I agree. Leake and Odorizzi are just very similar right now. Like, they're spots, right? They're very similar spots. Two offenses that, for the most part, all season have been bad, yet lately they've been heating up. And two small ballparks, two decent hitting atmospheres. Obviously, Baltimore's is a little bit better, but they're very similarly priced on DraftKings, and I'm not interested in either of them. I think I'm with you, man. I think some people will try to go to League and order Rizzi. I'm not really feeling it. I think that if anything, I might want to take some of these Baltimore bats, guys like Manny Machado, like you said. Mark Trumbo has been coming around. I expect like Colby Rasmus just came back. I'm pretty sure he hit a home run recently. It's just a great hitting atmosphere. I think I do want to load up on the bats in this game as well. Seattle, of course. This guy Jimmy, it looks like for the most part he was always a reliever, and then all of a sudden in 2017 or 28 this year they just said, "Hey kid, I know you've been terrible in your brief stint in the minors and your 14 games in relief appearances in the majors. You only had a 3.48 K per nine. You had an xFIP of 6.65, but we're just going to turn you into a starter." That's just what they decided to do. And so this year in AAA, he made 13 starts. This guy's never started, and since 2013, where his major league career, his professional career started, he's never started a game. He was always out of the bullpen, and he was never really good either. And all of a sudden, they just said, "We're going to turn you into a starter." So, and he didn't do all that great. I mean, he had a 6.79 K per nine in the AAA. He had a 3.31 walk rate. He didn't give up a ton of home runs, but he also had a really low BABIP. He had a 2.38 BABIP. He had a 3.14 ERA, but a 4.31 xFIP. That's AAA. So I expect these. I mean, we want to do some work, make sure he doesn't have some kind of funky delivery that can catch somebody off guard. But I would think that Seattle is in a really, really good spot here. They've been hot as well, both from a winning perspective and from an offensive perspective. Very hard not to like Seattle. Pretty much everybody head to toe. Even if Chris Herman plays, that could be great value. So I like the bats yet again with you. Next up, we got Jose Quintana of the Chicago Cubs visiting Clayton Kershaw of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Total in this game is 7.5. The Dodgers minus 185 at home. Kershaw on DraftKings, Cam, is over 11K, and I'm pretty sure that he has not thrown more than 65 pitches, more than 62 pitches since coming back up from the DL for the second time. What do you think, man?
Yeah. Dude, I don't know what they're doing. Like, their pricing's weird on a lot of these like aces so far this year. I feel like they have like this number in their head, and then they just increase it by like $2,000 from what it actually should be, just because
people complain.
I don't know, man. Yeah, like 11-7 for Kershaw. No way. I mean, there's no way I'm doing that. I don't know how much I'm gonna love like the Cubs bats just because of the lineup that they're gonna have. Bryant's on the DL. They gave Rizzo a day off today. I'm sure he'll be back in the lineup, but like Kershaw lefty on lefty, that's still a plus matchup for Kershaw. So I think like you could look at a Javi Baez, who's just really hot right now, Almora maybe, but I'm not getting really excited about the Cubs bats either. But like Kershaw just hasn't been the same, and like I don't know, I'm not paying that price for him. So I think you could take like a righty or two against him if you wanted to, but no way I pay that for Kershaw. On the other side, Quintana against the Dodgers. So Quintana's pretty elite against left-handed hitters, but against righties, gives up just a ton of hard contact, and a pretty decent fly ball percentage, I think, as well. 36%, so not extravagant, but 43% hard contact. I think like this is an interesting spot for a lot of these righties. The Dodgers lineup is interesting when they face a lefty because they have like a lot of lefty specialists on their team that they can roll out. It's not like the sexiest lineup, but as a stack, I think it can work. Taylor right now is heating up, actually. He looks pretty good at the plate. He hits lefties well. Kike, we all know, is kind of a lefty specialist. Forsythe comes in against lefties. He's 2.9. Barnes against the lefties, pretty decent as well. And then you can round it out with like Turner and Puig, who are pretty much the only expensive guys. But I don't know necessarily like you need that value on this slate, which kind of sucks. I think you would need like a bigger slate to play some of these really cheap value guys, but I don't hate like the Dodgers against Quintana. Maybe even Muncy just because that dude's a beast. But yeah, maybe a little interest in some of these right-handed hitters for the Dodgers against Quintana. Mostly like a Kemp or Turner and Kike if you want to ride the hot hand. I think you weren't muted and then you muted yourself.
Damn. So that whole time I wasn't muted, huh? You heard everything I said about you, huh? No, I'm just kidding. This early slate pitching, especially without Greinke, it really sucks. Like,
yeah.
It's rough, man. There's not a ton of places to go at this point. Like, Fulmer is by far my favorite option. You know what I mean? Like, by far. He went from being a guy that, he's like the spare tire. We'll put him away in case we need him. We need him desperately. Yeah. And he may be our SP1 at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, there's one guy who's going to be our SP1.
Okay.
We'll both agree on him.
There's only one guy left that I think you're talking about. And I have some rough information about that guy as well. But
oh, God.
It's bad, man. It's bad. So when I look at this game, while the Dodgers have been extremely hot, I don't know if I can necessarily rule out Quintana right away, just because, at this point, it's coming down to raw points. And I don't want to play Kershaw necessarily at 11-7. That's way too expensive. I did read that after his last game against the Mets, he threw an extra inning in the bullpen to try to stretch him out a little bit, and he raised his pitch count. So he's expected to be able to go about 5 innings, they said. Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that weird? But he's expected.
So weird.
The problem is, even if he goes 5 innings, number one, he needs to be perfect to pay off 11-7 in 5 innings. Number two, the man has looked terrible. Right? Like,
that just shows you where he's at. If you don't stay in the game and stretch yourself out, you get pulled and then you go to the bullpen and throw again.
Right. They felt like you could throw more, but they didn't want you to get killed. So they were just we're just going to take you out. You can finish up in the back.
What does that tell you about him? That's not a good sign.
Right.
At all.
And while I don't think Kershaw will be overly popular, I also don't think that the Cubs will be. I still think people respect him enough to not take guys against him. And we've seen people been scoring runs. Paulie D just texted me and said Kershaw produced 4 swing and misses versus the Mets last start. That's what Paulie just sent me. So yeah, I'm definitely not playing Kershaw. So that leaves me with Quintana and Fulmer as the only guys that I would even really want to consider. Either that, or we can reevaluate the Odorizzi league situation, which I really would rather not do. Although if I had to pick one, I'd go with Odorizzi because at least he's had the success, against the White Sox. But it's looking rough. That's all I'm saying. It's looking rough. Paulie D's in the chat right now. He said, I'm playing Javi Baez tomorrow no matter what. He said, I don't care what anybody says. I'm playing Javi Baez. But yeah,
he's been hot.
Oh yeah, man. He's been really hot. Aside from me having some interest in Quintana, I have to say, I really don't want to do it. The Dodgers have been one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. They're just hitting really well. I know Max Muncy's a lefty, but I wouldn't. That guy is just a beast right now. Unstoppable. Matt Kemp has.
I feel like the only way we get to Quintana tomorrow is if Dave Roberts does something messed up where he puts Jock and Bellinger and Muncy and all their
lefties. Yeah.
But this projected lineup that Labs has out right now is all righties besides Muncy.
Right. And again, Kike has been he's been on fire. Forsythe, you would think one day maybe he'd go back to hitting lefties. That dude went to LA and just died. That guy, I don't understand it. I loved playing him on Tampa. I loved it. He was leading off.
Yeah.
You play him against the lefty, it was great. Tampa used to be a great GPP team, man. Nobody would ever take them. They would either strike out or hit a home run. That's all they would do.
Yep.
Salza, Dickerson, all those guys. It was great. It's a shame they broke that team up, man. It was a lot of fun. They couldn't win a damn game, but it was fun for DFS. It was fun for DFS.
They could win money, though.
That's all that matters. That's all we care about. But anyway, the Dodgers are in play. Let's talk about this next one. Maybe you could talk me into this guy. John Gray of the Colorado Rockies visiting Chris Stratton of the San Francisco Giants. Total here is 8. San Francisco minus 115 at home. 64 degrees, 65% humidity for Johnny the Greeks. San Francisco Giants. What do you think, Cam? What are you thinking?
I mean, so like I know he's gotten absolutely murdered by this team this year. Like 2 starts, average of like 2 fantasy points. I think. What did you get? Like point two the last outing.
0.25 on May 19th, and then a 4 on May 18th. Now the 4 was in Colorado, so
Okay, yeah, and the point 3 was in San Fran.
Yeah, it was. I guess in my head it sounded a lot nicer, but it wasn't all that nice. Yeah, you're
right. You're like. To give him credit, the 4 was in Colorado, and then in San Fran, he had a .3.
San Francisco, the opposite environment, the best hitting environment in the world, he got a .2. He did worse than he did in Colorado.
Yeah. I'm just looking at him, and it's like, I mean, his ERA is 5.52, and his xFIP's like 2.8 or something. Mm-hmm. We know his swinging strike rate's there, 13.5. He's got a really good K percentage, 28.6% K rate. I know the Giants haven't nearly been as strikeout prone as they were at the beginning of the season, but like just off like pure stuff and numbers, like John Gray is the best pitcher on the slate, and he's like he's a good price at 9.5. If you don't. I know it's hard, but if you don't let like the past 2 outings against San Fran like dictate your decision, he would be like the top option. So I know it's really hard when you look and he's gotten absolutely shelled by this team. His last 2 starts specifically this year against them. But for me, it's just one of those things where if I'm playing this slate, I'm kind of looking around and I'd rather go to war with Gray than any of these other options personally. So I would play him. No, really, like you could hedge it as well with like a San Fran stack. I'm sure that would probably be low owned too. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, honestly. But I just look at Gray's stuff and I just think he's the best pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, hey man, listen. I'll let you talk about Stratton and the Rockies, but you're absolutely right. I mean, as far as if Kershaw was the old Kershaw, obviously it's a different conversation. But Kershaw, who he is now, when you look at all the pitching arms, like you're right. I mean, he's the best actual pitcher. If you look at his numbers, he's got the best actual numbers. You want to look at his ERA and all those outside exterior numbers that don't mean anything because the guy plays in Coors Field half of his starts. Then it's always going to drive you away. But when you look at the numbers that matter, like his xFIP, his Sierra, his strikeout rate, his swinging strike rate, everything like that, he is by far going to have the best numbers of all these pitchers. So you either take a chance with a pitcher that's not as good, who may be in a quote-unquote better matchup, or you go if you go down, at least you went down by playing the numbers. You went down playing the guy who, according to the numbers, is the best pitcher on the slate right now. So I totally understand where you're coming from, man. Talk to me about Stratton and the Rockies.
Yeah, I don't really ever pitch Stratton. He's actually been worse at home this year. Can definitely give it up to left-handed hitters for sure. Pretty decent against the righties though, enough for in this ballpark for me to kind of like stay away from the righties just because it's such a huge ballpark. But I think you could take some of the lefties like Blackman, Cargo, maybe even Apara against him. But I'd like Arenado's fine, Story's fine too, just because Stratton gives up hard contact to righties. But it's just a thing like with this ballpark. It's always hard for me to like click on offenses here just because you got to kind of be perfect to get it out and really reach the upside here for the bats. So I don't know.
It's a tough call. I mean, definitely a situation where I'm not pitching Stratton. Similar to Gray, the Rockies have kind of owned, like similar to how the Giants have owned Gray. The Rockies have owned Stratton, and the difference is Stratton is not a very good pitcher. He's taken a
Yeah.
huge step backwards. Like we talk about guys like Castillo, we talk about some of these guys that were disappointed because they went backwards. Like Stratton's right up there, man. Last year he was a guy that every week we can consider. Now it's like it's really got to be a juicy matchup. Like it's got to be like a cold Phillies team on the road, like in San Francisco, or something really like easy
Yeah.
to really consider him. Man, his numbers are just awful. His hard contact rate is bad. His fly ball rate's bad. He's not even throwing his curveball that much anymore because he's been getting smoked. He's just falling off a cliff. And when you look at the BVP, it's terrifying. I mean, it's not a huge sample, don't get me wrong, but these guys have beaten him up. And so, like, I do think that we can get the Rockies at some lower ownership because we have already talked about a lot of other good hitting spots. So I don't think people are dying to play the offense in this game. So I wish they were cheaper, though. Like, the guys that I want to play, they're priced as if they're in core still. And that just sucks. Like, Charlie Blackmon is 5'1". Nolan Arenado is still 5'3". It's like, those are the guys, obviously, you want to play that you're thinking, like, okay, but they're priced like they're in cores, so it's
I think at the
tough.
start of this series, like Arenado was like 5'9" or
Yeah,
something like
they
that.
literally
And
didn't lower his price when he came out
yeah.
of cores. They literally said no, this guy's just great, so no. But yeah, I think the Rockies are in play. It's just I agree. It's kind of hard to go there when we have two other games in smaller ballparks with a better hitting environment, who are juicy and cheaper. So it's just kind of tough to get to the Rockies.
Juicy and cheaper.
Juicy and cheaper, bro. But I do like what you said about John Gray, and I do think maybe he could be worth a shot because at the end of the day, if John like you're right, you're gonna feel like if you play a guy like Leak or Odorizzi and they get rocked, you're gonna feel bad because you're like I knew those guys were bad pitchers. I know they were in good matchups, but they're bad pitchers. If you
Yeah.
play a guy like John Gray and he gets beat up by a weaker San Francisco offense in a great pitching environment, it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, at least you didn't play a bad player. He's a good player. He just maybe wasn't in the best situation. So we have to settle for
Yeah.
something, and there's not a ton else to
Like
settle for.
the numbers indicate, I mean, 10 times, like if he plays this team 10 times in San Francisco, like 7 or 8 times he should have good outings, you know?
Or at
So
least
he's gotten
decent.
the one out.
I mean,
Yeah, he's got the point three out of the way, so maybe he can maybe we can do a little better than that this time.
yeah, that's like getting the triple in the cycle. Like he's got that out of the way already. He's got the triple. He got the
Yeah.
point three. It's like oh,
Got that one out.
but at the end of the day, like if John Gray can get us an 18, even that might be enough.
Yeah.
It might be because
Yeah,
of the
so
slate.
too.
Right? Like if this
Yeah.
was a 11 game, 10 game slate, I probably am not considering John Gray because
Yeah.
I'm sure we could find something better that's more reasonable. But on this
Right.
slate where we don't have even Greinke on DraftKings, on FanDuel at least you have Greinke. On DraftKings you don't even have that. So it's like shit, like I really don't want to pay 11-7 for a Kershaw who's number 1 not all the way stretched out and number 2 doesn't even look good right now. Who are you left with? And you're right. The next best, the actual, as far as who's the best pitcher right now, it's Sean Gray. Interesting. All right, main slate time. We've got 4 games here, same as on FanDuel and DraftKings, make it a little easier for us. And we're going to start things off with Tanner Rourke of the Washington Nationals visiting Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies. Total here is 8, Philly minus 145. Aaron Nola is a whopping 12-1 on DraftKings. It is going to be very hot and humid. 86 degrees, 57% humidity out in the city of brotherly love. What do you got?
Let me switch over quick. I don't have the. Oh shoot, I messed up. Hold on. I think like I'm not gonna have any interest in Rourke. I don't think unless if we go through these 4 games and there's absolutely nothing else. But he's just been really bad lately. Going up against this Phillies team starting to heat up. You got Hoskins is heating up. Odubel's hitting a lot better. He had that cold stretch, but now he's right back to where he is. Carlos Santana, as well, is always a bat you don't love targeting. So yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of interest in this Phillies lineup for sure. Just definitely the main two guys that I always have interest in every day. It's pretty crazy that Odubel is 5'4". It's pretty wild, but yeah, I think those guys are viable. On the other side, I mean, looks like Nola is going to be by far the best pitcher on the slate. It's just a matter of if you want to pay up for him at 12-1. This might be a slate where you just do it and try and find like a couple value bats here, and just roll with him there. I think he's at home. His home road splits are pretty significant. So far this year he's been really good just in general this year, but at home he's been phenomenal. The only thing that worries me here is this lineup for the Nationals. They could get pretty left-handed heavy here, depending on what they roll out, and that could limit some of his upside with the strikeout stuff. He has a 21% strikeout rate versus lefties and like a 30% strikeout rate versus righties. So that's a pretty significant dip. That 12K price tag's kind of factoring in that 30% K rate, not the 20% K rate. So if they roll out a left-handed heavy lineup, I think it's definitely worth considering other options. But at the same time, he's definitely well in play at home, where he always pitches better against a national lineup that's been pretty cold. It just worries me a little bit with the upside, depending on what lineup they roll out. But the raw points should be there, and he should be fine on a 4-game slate.
Yeah, I agree. Nola is definitely like the cash guy. Like that's what he feels like, right? Like it feels like a cash play. His recent games against the Nationals haven't been terrible, but they haven't been 12K worthy. His best game against them was going back to 2017. These guys obviously play a lot. They're division rivals. His best game against them was a 23 on DraftKings, and again, like his lowest score was a 17. So like he's giving you, his scores are fine, but obviously at 12K on a normal slate, you want more than 23 points. But it's a 4-game slate. We don't have a ton of options, so beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And Nola does pitch better at home. I completely agree. Even his 2 best games against the Nationals, he was at home. But as far as ceiling goes, I'm with you. I don't think he has the ceiling. It's just a matter of if we need the ceiling, if that makes sense. But there are a lot of lefties, and Nola's upside drops significantly against lefties. So I do think that while I think Nola right now is like where I would probably go in cash, well, maybe not. We do have Lance McCullers against the Rays, so we might have to talk about this. But I think Nola's in play. I also think you can take Soto. I think you can take Murphy. Michael Taylor, oddly enough, Michael Taylor has some BVP against him, like pretty good. Of all people, as dominant as he is against righties and as bad as Taylor is against righties, it's weird. But Bryce Harper's got some BVP. I know he's been cold, but Bryce Harper's only 4.8, man. Like he's getting to a point where he's just too cheap not to play. Like at a certain point, it's like Bryce Harper 4.8, small ballpark, a righty, who he's got BVP against. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like at some point, it's like. So I do think Nola's in play, but I also think that if you're not going to play Nola, you could definitely look at some of these national lefties. And I definitely like the Phillies against Rourke. I think Rourke sucks. And I like to take pitchers against Philly, but not right now. They're just too hot right now. It's just not worth it. Next up, Lance McCullers of the Houston Astros visiting Ryan Stanek of the Tampa Bay Rays. Looks like we're playing that game again today. We're going to have to figure out who the hell is coming in relief here. But the line in this game, the total in this game sits at 7.5. Tampa Bay plus 145 at home. What do you got here?
Do you think it's Yarbrough again? I feel like
he hasn't pitched in a while. So
I feel like when Stanek opens up, I feel like it's always Yarbrough.
I think it's been a while since he's pitched, so I think maybe it could be because.
Yeah, I feel like every time we do a show, this happens.
Yeah.
It's always like Stanix opening and
Well,
fucking.
fucking
Um,
Tampa's doing this every other freaking day. It's like every other day they got a fake starter out there. Although,
yeah,
that one guy they threw out there, Font, they actually, last time he went out, they let him pitch a little bit. Like, they let him go a little
yeah,
further. It was,
yeah.
I mean, that means nothing now, but anyway.
Yeah, so I actually think this is kind of an interesting spot for Houston here. The first like inning or so might be rough, but if they try to bring in Yarbrough here, you get Houston against a lefty. Usually, if Houston's gonna be getting like a starting pitcher who's like an average to below average left-handed pitcher, like you'd see their run total around 5. So I think this is kind of an interesting, sneaky little Houston spot as of now. I mean, that could catch on by the time we get to lock tomorrow. I'd be surprised if that doesn't kind of become a trend. But yeah, I'll have interest in Houston for sure here if I know that Yarbrough is gonna pitch. I mean, I don't love the ballpark or anything, but Houston's been great. Like Alex Bregman right now versus a lefty would be almost close to a lock. He's just been on fire. Springer, like Correa, Altuve, just solid all around. So I would have a lot of interest in these Houston bats if I can figure out he's pitching. On the other hand, I'm not gonna play McCullers at 11-1 if I can play Nola at 12-1. McCullers, along with like a lot of Houston pitchers, have just been better at home. And oddly enough, I can pull up the numbers here that back it up, but I actually haven't been targeting pitchers against Tampa. Like Tampa's offense at home, they've actually been like not as bad, I don't believe. So it's just been something that I haven't been doing. So I'm not going to do it tomorrow here. I'm not sure if I necessarily get to any Rays bats, but I think they've just been like pesky enough at home to kind of get me off McCullers, especially with his home road splits and stuff like that.
Yeah, McCullers is a tricky one, man, because he is just not consistent. Like, he's got amazing upside. He's got a really nice ceiling, but he's also got a really low floor. He's just so inconsistent. The Rays have been really pesky, man. They've been a really tough team. And I even if you like look at the recent example, like Domingo Germán in the Yankee Stadium dominated these guys. However, when Domingo Germán played them in Tampa, he got his ass kicked.
Yeah, so the Rays, I just pulled it up. So the Rays at home are actually 5th in the MLB in weighted runs created at home so far. So you have Cleveland's first at home, Boston second, Yankees are third, Giants are actually 4th. So that's interesting for Gray on the previous slate, and then you have the Rays 5th. So that I remembered there being a reason why I would be off some of these like chalkier starting pitching options in Tampa, and that's the reason why.
That's interesting, man. That's good stuff right there, Cam. Nice work, man. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm with you though. I don't really like picking on Tampa. I probably would just try to find the money. It's a similar situation. I think Nola is more consistent overall, and I think Nola just, even though McCullers has the better matchup on paper, I just trust Nola more than I would trust McCullers. That's just what it comes down to. So yeah, I don't think I'm too interested in McCullers. As far as Houston against a lefty, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I'm fine with some of these guys. Like Bregman, if Correa comes back, I'm fine with Correa, and then like maybe like George Springer, and I could consider Gaddis. But Houston in a big ballpark downgrade, going up against probably I would assume Yarbrough. Like, I don't know. I just haven't like. I know that their WRC plus against lefties has been good, but I feel like they're not really doing it necessarily from power. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they're doing a lot of outside of Bregman, who has been hot. I feel like they've been small balling it, because even Gaddis, he's really cooled off since that monster week or whatever he had. And like George Springer's not really doing a ton. George Springer's ground ball rate is actually really high this year. So I don't know. Like, I could definitely take Bregman. If Correa's back, I could take him because he seemed to be on the up and up. Although he did get a little hurt. But I don't know. I'm just not thrilled about Houston in this ballpark. I do think that on a 4-game slate, it's hard to get different, and I do think one way you can get different is by playing these Rays, who won people a lot of money the other day. So I do think some of these guys like Kiermaier coming back. I do like that kid. He can steal bases. He can do a lot. That dude Jacob Bowers is like just a nightmare to right-handed pitchers. He will make you throw. It's not even about him being a good hitter. He'll make you throw 25 pitches every time he sees you. Dude is just the king of foul balls. It's just. So yeah, man. I think they could really work McCullers, and like I like that stat you shared, man. That's something not a ton of people really know about. I think I do like this Rays offense could be very sneaky in tournaments. Jaime Barria of the Los Angeles Angels visiting Brian Johnson, the lefty from the Boston Red Sox. Total here is 10.5. Boston minus 135. Boston, obviously, a very good home team. What do you got, Cam?
Yeah, this could be another disaster for Barria here. Here's a guy pitched a little bit at the early in the season when he started coming up. He had a couple decent outings for me, and then a couple bad outings. His swinging strike rate's there. If you watch him pitch, I don't actually think he's a terrible pitcher by any means, but it's kind of just the way he pitches. I just don't think he's necessarily ready to throw in the major leagues consistently, and this is just a terrible spot for him going up against Boston in Boston. I can see him getting blown up again here, so I have a lot of interest in these Boston bats. Can go right back to Mookie, JD, but I have Benintendi, Moreland, Bogarts, Devers even, Jackie Bradley's been heating up a little bit. Vasquez is dirt cheap. I like them all here. Boston at home, can't hate it ever. On the other side, Brian Johnson. I haven't seen his name in a while. Has he pitched much this year?
Yeah, he's been pitching out of the bullpen. It looks like he's got 22 game appearances, but only
okay. So I knew he I recognize his name, but I didn't think he was starting anything.
Yeah, he only had one start this year.
Yeah, bullpen guys are interesting when they come out and then they're deemed starters, just because their numbers are so skewed when they come out of the bullpen, just because of the different scenarios they get in and everything. Mm-hmm. It's just weird.
Yeah, the scenarios control what pitches they're gonna throw, everything.
Yeah, it's tough because they're hand selected for certain matchups and everything, so their numbers are inflated. I mean, if you looked at his numbers right now, I mean, the hard contact's low. I mean, decent ground ball percentages, not extreme fly ball rates or anything. xFIPs are a little bit average. Gives up the home run ball to righties a little bit so far this year, but I mean, I think you could play bats against him. The problem is I'm not exactly sure I would love a stack or anything. I think you could play Kinsler, Upton, Pujols against lefties has actually struggled so far. The last couple of years, he's become more of a reverse splits hitter. And then I'm not really sure what's going on with this projected lineup at the bottom. Whenever you have Martin Maldonado batting sixth, and then the guys under him are worse than him, that's never good. So I don't know. I mean, you could play the top three for the Angels, but I don't know if I would get crazy with anything else. Yeah, not really for me.
Oh yeah, man. I think it's hard not to like both offenses here, especially the Red Sox. I mean, the Angels have been another one of those right-handed heavy teams that just looks shitty against lefties. But Brian Johnson is obviously a different type of lefty. I don't think Brian Johnson's the worst pitcher in the world, but I don't think he's very good. And I mean, on paper, man, there was a time Ian Kinsler was on the Tigers, man. That's where he played. He was on the Tigers. He was one of those guys that destroyed lefties. And this year, his numbers are awful against lefties. Justin Upton was a guy that I only played against lefties. He's another one that came from the Tigers. And part
I
of
feel
that,
like this podcast is just coming full circle. It's
right?
messed up.
Is it weird? Isn't it like
Did
strange?
we did we like plan this out before we started this? Like we had like a 45-minute pre-show or just like that's so yeah, keep talking about it.
It is weird, but I mean, these are guys that came from the Tigers. These are guys that like can hit righty, like hit lefties. Like they're part of that squad for like deadly against lefties. And this year, they just can't. It's just so weird. Like Mike Trout, I think Mike Trout is hurt, so like he gets a pass.
Yeah.
But his numbers he's fine against lefties. That dude is just. But why has Upton and Kinsler all of a sudden unable to hit lefties? Like it's so weird. So I would think that they're in a good spot here. It's a big ballpark boost for the Angels. It's a lefty, a mediocre lefty on the mound. You would think Kinsler and Upton were great options, but I don't know. Even Pujols, why does he suck against lefties? Like, what the hell? Like, you would think that for his old ass it'd be easier. Like, you can see the ball come the whole way. Like, come on, man. Like, Maldonado, I played him against Price because Maldonado is historically much better against lefties. Not that he's a good hitter, but he was better against lefties. And he doesn't do shit. Today, he hits a home run off a righty. And, I don't know. And then Chris Young, he's the only one that hit a home run in that game, I think, for the Angels against Price. He's the only one. So I want to like the Angels. I like their 5.1 run total. Like, come on, Angels. Don't screw me, man. Like, don't. And obviously Boston is Boston. I think I do think Barria is a little bit better than his numbers show, but I think Boston is Boston. I'm not picking on them. No, not at all. Junior Guerra of Cammy Boys Milwaukee Brew Crew visiting Anthony Desclafani of the Cincinnati Reds. Total in this game is 9. Cincinnati minus 110, 88 degrees, 52% humidity. Another great hitting environment in Cincinnati. What do you got?
Dude, I think Guerra's gonna get blown up one of these starts. Just kind of looking into his numbers, like I don't know, man. His xFIPs are like mid 4, like 4.2 about, and his ERA is like 2.8. He gives up just a bunch of hard contact, 39% to lefties, 41% to righties. He is a ground ball pitcher with that splitter, but outside of the splitter, like 39, 41% fly balls to each side of the plate. His home run to fly ball ratio is average to lefties and like well below league average to righties. So I think like this is a scenario where he could regress going into Great American Ballpark here. I know he pitches in Miller Ballpark. Wow, I'm an idiot. Miller Park, but like I think he can definitely. Like, I definitely think the Reds bats could get to him tomorrow. I just don't believe that he's as good as he's been pitching. I mean, looking at his statistics, there's no reason why you would. And then to add on to it, his control's always been in question. And his last 2 starts, there's been 3 walks and 4 walks here. So I'm not sure how popular. I don't think the Reds bats are going to be popular tomorrow, and I think they're definitely in play here. And I like them at home, so I think you could definitely look at like 1 through 6 or 1 through 5 here. Actually, Peraza had a good game, so maybe he's heating up a little bit. 1 through 7, I don't know. We always talk about Winker. I can't get him right, at least. I know you don't really like the dude either. Kind of a pain, but. Yeah, I like the Reds bats, and as for the Brewers here, like, I mean, I like the Brewers power. Just I'll have to look who's gonna be in the lineup. Like, yeah, I don't know if Shaw comes back tomorrow. I think Kane's gonna be out again, so that kind of sucks. So you're left with Thames, Yelich, Braun, and Aguiar. I think I would just do a 3-man stack with the Brewers. And something that's really interesting with the Brewers here is look at Thames' numbers versus the Reds, and then look at Braun's numbers. I'll pull it up quick while you're talking, but I think it's going to be pretty insane. You're muted.
Good call. You can already see that this game is going to be a great hitting environment. We know it's Cincinnati, a great hitter's park. It's going to be very hot and pretty damn humid. Should have solid dew points here. I love it, man. I love the call. Rivalry game. These are teams that typically the good games of their rivalries was not about pitching. It was always about who's going to hit better, who's going to hit more. Both these teams obviously play in smaller parks. So I don't think I'm interested in any of the pitchers. Desclafani, I think, will draw some ownership because he's had a couple okay games, but his swinging strike rate is still like 6.8%. And when the Brewers don't strike out, they're typically hitting the ball pretty hard. So I do like Eric Thames a lot. Yelich has been red hot. Ryan Braun seems to be heating up, not necessarily in a power perspective, but in general. Aguilar has been on fire. If Travis Shaw comes back, he's priced phenomenally at 4.3, especially in comparison to the rest of his teammates. Aguilar, Yelich, and Thames are all over 5K. And they've earned it. They've been good, but quietly. They've quietly all been very good. Except Thames. He's the only one. I know he hit a couple home runs, but the dude was like hurt for how long? He came back at 5K. Like, give me a break. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hate when they do that.
Yeah, man.
It's annoying.
It's crazy. Like
price the guy out.
Yeah, it's like what if the guy has like rust or something, man? Like, give me a break. I'm taking a chance by playing the dude. You gotta make him 5K.
Yeah, at least give me like minus 500 for like rust factor.
Yeah, the rust factor. Yes, exactly. And I also like the Reds, like you said. I agree with you with Guerra. I'm not paying 8.2 for him, no way. And his numbers indicate that he's getting hit really hard, and while he does have a decent ground ball rate to righties, he also gives up a lot of fly balls to both, like you said, 40% each to lefties and righties. So I think that when you get hit hard and you have a tendency to let the ball up in the air, you're going to eventually give up home runs. I don't know why it hasn't happened to him yet, but I do think it's coming, and I think the Reds are a perfect team to do it to him. These are all guys that can typically hit those low pitches. These are all guys that can typically hit those sinkers and splitters. Schebler, Scooter Gennett is really good against those low-type pitches. Joey Votto, we know, who just got ejected from the game, so maybe he's fired up. He got ejected in his previous game. So, I don't know. Peraza had a monster game against Newcomb, too. I definitely like the Reds, man. I think they're in a good spot. And I like the Brewers, too, but I like the Reds a lot. And that is going to do... Oh, yeah. Okay. I want to hear this. Go ahead.
So, Thames, like, just since he played like in 2011, 2012 for like the Blue Jays or something, but since he's come up and started playing for the Brewers in the last 2 years against the Reds, he in 64 plate appearances, he's batting .344 with 12 home runs. I don't know what it is against the Reds, but he just like seems to own him. I'm not really sure like if that has anything to do with anything, but an interesting like little tidbit there that I just know for a fact that he just like smashes against the Reds. And then Braun, I know Braun just like listening to and watching the Brewers for like years upon years now just always crushes at Great American Ballpark as well. And he's been a guy who's been hitting seeing and hitting the ball really well lately as well. So I think those two guys are definitely in play. And Aguilar. Pretty insane. He's not even on the All-Star ballot. You have to write in his name, and this dude's like low-key. I think he's one of like the best hitters in the National League. If you just look at like a lot of his stats and stuff, it's pretty crazy that you have to write him in for the All-Star ballot. But
he is a big dude, man. He is a big
dude.
Like,
I love that guy. Awesome.
He is big. He is a big guy.
He is a monster.
Yeah. He looks like he could be like Thames' younger brother or something. Because like Thames is like all big and jacked and shit, and like Aguilar is a big, strong guy, but like he's also got a little belly on him. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like the younger brother was like eating a little bit too much. Jack,
yeah, exactly. Like Thames and Aguilar like work out together, and they like both do. But Aguilar like has snacks afterwards.
Exactly.
When like Thames is eating like broccoli and like chicken breast, Aguilar's on the couch like snacking on Doritos and shit.
Exactly. Thames has the protein shake after the workout. Aguilar's adding a little bit of ice cream into his protein shake. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, gotta make it taste good, though. Gotta make it taste good. A little too much milk.
They just both mash.
Exactly. But anyway, that's going to do it for the Wise Take game-by-game analysis. At this point, I'm going to remind everybody, if you haven't already, check us out at wisetake.com. Come rock with the nation. Come see what we're all about. $2.50 is all it costs to get you a day pass. And I'm looking for some redemption tomorrow. I will be playing, probably more on the early slate, but I will be playing pretty heavily. So, we have articles. We have cheat sheets. I'm sure Cam will do a cheat sheet for probably the early slate, right, Cam, I'm assuming? The 4-gamer is kind of tough.
Yeah,
right?
Probably, because that one's 5 games,
Yeah.
6 games, so it's a little better than 4.
Yeah, so we'll have a cheat sheet for the early slate from Cam. We'll have a GPP article from myself, Johnny the Greek on the cash games. We will have the expert poll out, just 8 basic questions to get you started. Key questions, really, to get you started on your research. Things like what's everybody's favorite cash game pitchers. We typically take 3 or 4 of our analysts and we'll ask them all the same questions, and you can kind of see all their answers in one article. No strategy session tomorrow because we do have 2 slates, but we will have article coverage for the early slate, and for the main slate, we'll have the articles and all that. Plus, we'll have the Y Stream, our flagship show for our premium members, where we, similar to this, but an hour and a half before lock, we do the show. It'll be about 5:30 p.m. Eastern, where after we've done our research, so we can kind of really dive in, let you know who we're playing, what we found, etc., etc. Of course, we also have a chat feature. You can talk to the other Wise Take Nation members and the other Wise Take analysts as well. We are a DFS community, man. We're just designed to make you a better player. We're designed to help you win. And we all want to win together and keep the industry alive, keep the industry going, because we just love what we do. We have a lot of fun. So come join the nation, come rock with us. Like I said, $2.50 gets you in for a day pass. From there, you can check out our monthly packages if you want to save some money. Definitely a good idea to sign up for the monthly, end up saving some money that way, or even a season pass. But anyway, Cam, time for some top threes. We'll do top threes on the main slate. Just because it's the last thing I talked about, so it's what I remember. So, the top 3 pitchers for the main.
Nola. Holy shit.
That's a really tough question, isn't it? Holy shit is right.
Top 3, and there's 4 games. It's always tough.
Oh yeah.
Nola.
Oh my god, this is bad.
Yeah, dude, Nola.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this would be, and I know we talked about FanDuel before the show, and like this may be a FanDuel slate.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like you have to I would have to look into like all these guys way more in depth to be able to like confidently pitch one, because on the surface right now I couldn't name a second pitcher that I really like.
I think I would have. This is gonna sound crazy, man, but I think I'd have to go with the Arbro. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Stanek and just
just take the 4 and just hope he somehow gets you like 8 or 9 or something like that, and just roll.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I can see that. I think I'd have to go Yarbrough, assuming he's the one pitching. Like, and it's not even about Houston against lefties. It's just about Houston in this ballpark, and just hoping that he lasts and doesn't get his face kicked in. Other than that, the only guy I can think of is maybe I'm looking at Brian Johnson, just because the Angels have also kind of struggled, but I don't want to do that. The Angels are projected for 5.1 runs, and it looks like it might rain there. All right, that was a tough question. So you know what we'll do? We'll have to do the top 3s for both slates. I'm going to have to not be lazy, and we'll just have to do it, because the top 3s for the main slate are just going to be so awful. So
yeah,
that's our top 2. Well, 1.5, our top 1.5.
That's our top main. 1.
What is your top 3 for the early? We'll do that.
Let me pull it up quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I like looking into it. I like Fulmer. I actually do kind of like Odorizzi, I guess, just to take a shot on him there. And then for me, it's going to be Gray, and just kind of ride or die with the numbers and just kind of my process in general.
Yeah, man, I think I'm with you on Fulmer for sure. Fulmer's probably my favorite pitcher. I'll go with Gray, but that worries me, especially after that stat you mentioned about the Giants being up there and like runs produced at home.
That's true.
Whew, but you know what? I'm gonna go with Fulmer, Quintana. No, Fulmer, Gray, and Odorizzi is what I'll go with. Fulmer, Gray, and Odorizzi. If I had to pick one, I would go with Odorizzi. He's only 6'3". He's had success against the White Sox. Man, these are two really, really messed up slates. I mean, I was begging for a top three in the early, and it's really not much better than the than the main. Top three stacks for the. We'll stick with the early slate and go in order. Top three stacks for the early slate.
I like the Twins again. Mariners, and I mean, I do like Gray, but I think you could make like a contrarian Giant stack against him if they've just been crushing him.
Yeah, they've been crushing them, crushing it at home. I'll go with the Twins as well. I'll go with the Seattle Mariners, and I will go with I'll go with the Orioles. Why not? I'll go with the Orioles. A really good hitting environment. I'll go with them. What about the main slate, Cam?
I like the Phillies for sure. Reds and Red Sox.
Yeah, I'll go with the Brewers, the Reds, and the Red Sox as well. Dong Watch. Now, the Dong Watch will do. You know what we'll do? We'll just open it up all day. You can take anybody. We're going to only do 3 players still, but you can pick them from any slate.
All right.
All right. Who's your first pick?
Let's see here. Thames.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to go with Scooter Jeanette.
Let's go JD.
I will go with Mookie Betts. You gotta get one or the other, right? It's like.
Yep. Now I have it. Oh, what the fuck? Bregman,
there you go. And I would go with I'll go with Javi Baez. I'll do it for Paulie D. For Paulie D, Javi Baez. There you go. There you have it. And that is going to do it for the Wise Take DFS podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up. And subscribe to the channel. If you're watching us on Facebook, give us a like and a share. Support the Wise Take Nation. If you're watching on Twitch or Twitter, give us a follow. Give us a retweet. Helps us out. And if you're listening on Podbean or iTunes, give us some 5-star reviews. Help us up those charts. We ask you to do these things every night. And it's not for my own pleasure. I get tired of saying the same thing every day. But it really does help us out. So please, guys, show us some love. It goes a long way with us, and it allows us to continue to do these shows. Whatever platform you're watching us or listening us to, all we're asking for is you to drop a little bit of love and to spread the word for the nation. Cam, anything in closing?
Not much. Depending on when you're celebrating, I think it's 4th of July weekend for some people. I know it is for me. I'm going to be going to Milwaukee on Friday, and going to be going on the beach and stuff. So everyone, I think this might be my last podcast. So everyone, enjoy the weekend. Tomorrow's slate should be interesting. Kind of going through it. 2 pretty weird slates, but we'll try and break it down as good as we can on the site. Yeah, not a whole lot from me.
There you go. For myself, for Cam, the entire Wise Take Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.